Yo, what is up guys? We are in the S14 Kouki right now, and I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about an idea I have. I've been kind of thinking about it for maybe like the last year or so, but the last few weeks I've posted a couple YouTube videos and it's feeling good. I'm feeling really motivated, but I've been kind of like thinking, like, I don't think I have personally enough like content and things, you know, I do on a day-to-day basis to be posting, you know, 1 to 2 times a week. And I've been thinking, you know, I've been wanting to like use my platform to, you know, somehow like help the community, to help the car community. And I think it would be really cool if I started interviewing other people with like car builds, and not like crazy car builds, but like realistic car builds, like popular cars like Miatas, S2000s, 240s, you know, 02 to 07 WRXs, and like showcasing like realistic builds, but mainly having like these videos be like educational, so like people who are, you know, getting into the car scene have videos to like refer to if they're interested in buying a certain type of car. You know, let's say we have like an IS300 video, you know, it kind of goes over just the basics of, you know, the motor, the interior, like maintenance costs, things to look out for if you're, you know, buying one for the first time. You know, I just have so many younger kids who are getting into the car scene reach out to me on Instagram and DMing me like, hey Nick, I'm looking at this 240 this weekend. You know, what kind of things should I look for? I'm looking at this E30. And, you know, I'm not too familiar with other makes and models besides like Subarus and, you know, 240s. But I think it'd be a really helpful way to help the community, but also like showcase people's cars too, because there's a lot of cool cars out there. And that way, you know, I can learn about new cars, you guys can learn about new cars. And you know, if people are interested in the car like I'm interviewing, that way they can, you know, go follow that person's build. So I think it'd be an awesome way to, you know, make videos and, you know, put out content for you guys. But let me know what you guys think. I'm feeling really passionate about it and I think it's gonna be a great idea. But we're gonna do like kind of like a review of my car and kind of show you guys like how much, you know, my 240 costs, how much the mods cost, and kind of go over all that kind of stuff. All right guys, this is my 1997 240 SX, also is known as the Kouki model. I've owned this car for I think a little over 4 years now, which is like absolutely crazy to think about. It feels like I just bought this car like seriously like a year or two ago. But I love this car, and let me tell you why I picked it. The Kouki has always been my favorite styling. I feel like the glass headlights and just like the front end of this car just really kind of won me over. It just has that very aggressive, mean look. And not that I don't like Zenkis or S13s. I love S13s. I love the pop-ups and also the Silvias. The Kouki just has that really aggressive front end. And I just have wanted one for so long. And this one happened to come up for sale, and that's why I bought it. But I kind of wanted to make this video kind of like an introduction to how much this car costs, how much all these mods cost, also like the reliability for a 240 as well. I get so many of you guys messaging me like, should I buy this car, should I buy a 240? And I really want to make these videos instructional and like, you know, educational for you guys, so you guys can make a good decision for yourself to, you know, buy a first car. And I'll kind of just start by going over the exterior of the car and how much these types of like parts cost, so you guys can kind of have like an idea. So the aero kit on this specific car is an Origin aggressive kit. It's an authentic kit, and it's pretty affordable too, which is really cool. I think these kits are around $1,200 brand new. I'm not exactly sure how much they cost with like COVID pricing, and also like shipping costs nowadays is probably a lot more. But I got this kit used for about $900. The rear bumper is actually a Super Doof. I didn't really like the Origin rear, so I actually put a Super Doof kit. I know a lot of people don't mix and match, but I really think the Super Doof really matches the rest of the kit. So again, I got the kit for about $900. I don't know how much they would be in today's market, but I feel like that's a pretty affordable price for an authentic kit. It is a little bit windy out here, guys, so apologize. Don't know how much it's going to be affecting the, you know, built-in mic on this specific camera, but hopefully it's not too bad for you guys. The headlights are actually one of my favorite things. These are actually OEM glass headlights, which is like super cool for in the 90s. And this is an OEM S14 grill. Nissan actually sells these brand new. I think it was like 130 bucks, which isn't too bad. These lights are custom. These are made by Shutterrock. They're all sequential. They have like 30 plus settings, which is absolutely insane. And these actually weren't too bad for being like handmade, custom. I think there was like 800 bucks for both of these, which is pretty good of a deal. The lip on this car is actually, I got it off Amazon, I think. It's just a universal lip, has 3M tape on it, and then just attaches, and you can cut it to wherever you want to end it on whatever bumper you have. I think that was like 50 bucks, which is not bad. I I got these Workmeisters, I think about 2 years ago. These are 18 by 9 in the front, 18 by 10 in the rear. I think the offset is +10 and +5 if I remember correctly. These were actually $3,000 with tires, and the guy was really kind. He actually delivered them from, I think he lived in Seattle too, which is pretty crazy. But I wanted him to ship it, but he was kind enough to deliver them to my work at the time. So those are about $3,000. We do have these guys. These are pretty expensive now, which is pretty crazy. I thought they were expensive back in, God, I think I bought these 3 years ago. These Ganadors were $600 when I bought them. They are one of the rarest combos, so they have the blue lens and then carbon fiber finish. It's not actually full carbon fiber. Ganadors just have a carbon fiber finish on them. But these right now are about $2,000, which is like freaking crazy. You can get just the standard ones for about $1,500 to about $1,800. But if you're going for like the baller finish, they're gonna be around $2 grand, which is super crazy. A lot of tax on that. The wing is a 326 wing. I got this for $500. I think 2 years ago when I got the car painted. I really like the authentic 326 wing. So they have the 326 emblem on the top of the wing, and then also the 326 underneath, which is like super sick. I love little touches like that on aero. But I think these are about $1,000 now, which is super crazy. These are some eBay taillights. I don't remember the brand. I think it was like PSM or something like that. But those were $200 on eBay. I think this, if I remember correctly, was a Megan catback, and I think it was just a couple $100 at the time. But it doesn't sound bad for being kind of like a cheap brand. Not super unhappy with it. I would like to get a Tomei at some point, or an HKS. I think HKS sound absolutely amazing. So maybe the next time I get exhaust, I will upgrade it and get rid of the blast pipes. And since this is an original Kouki, I really didn't want to go overs on this car. I do like overs, but I really wanted to keep the fenders stock. But other than all the stuff I went over with you guys, there's really not too much to my car. I didn't spend too much money on the exterior, and then like the wheels and the bags are probably the most expensive thing. So I think definitely under 10 grand. I think it was around 8 or 9 grand, but we'll go over the list at the very end, but somewhere in that ballpark for all the exterior stuff. All right guys, you ready for the rarest part of my car? Bam, bone stock, KA, unmolested. Seriously though, this is like the stockest car you're ever gonna get. It's crazy because obviously like when you look at the exterior of my car, it looks super wild, but then inside it is a bone stock, even down to the intake box. But this is another reason why I bought this car, because I wanted something that's going to be reliable, but also kind of have a good, nice street look to it, and ideally in my car, and that's why I chose this car specifically. And I actually bought this car from a guy in his 60s. He actually owned this car since the early 2000s, which is like super crazy. He wanted to give it to his grandson, but I think he didn't want the car, which is super weird because this car is freaking badass. And this car was obviously red, as you can see. I don't want to pay to have the bay painted. Maybe at some point, if I ever get like an SR or a JZ motor for this, it would be super dope to clean the bay up and repaint it. But ooh, what's that? Sounds crazy. But yeah, not at this point, but maybe at some point. And my biggest tip for you new car guys getting into the scene: buy car stock, buy cars OEM. I know when you see cool tricked out cars, you want to buy them because they have wheels and they're slammed, but 9 out of 10 times, those cars have been driven hard, they haven't been maintained. I try really hard to buy OEM cars, or cars that are like stock in the motor, or if they aren't stock, you know, motors that have been rebuilt and well taken care of. And that's why I buy cars like this specifically. I've owned this car for over 5 years, or 4 years, but I've never had a single problem. She has never broken on me. So again, I really want you guys to look out for yourselves. Do yourself a favor. I know it's tempting to buy the cool looking cars that have exhaust and have coilovers, but buy cars that are OEM. You can always add that stuff later, but it's gonna bite you in the butt if you buy cars that are projects from people. And not all cases, but I really do try to buy cars that are really clean on the inside too. Most times when people take good care of their cars on the inside, they're maintained, and the person who owns them takes really good care of them elsewhere as well. Not always, but most times. And the interior on this car is like super mint. I will say, I don't clean my car very much. It's super dusty. Oh, that's nasty. But seriously, the steering wheel is like almost untouched, and the console has like almost no scratches, no cracked dash. Usually that doesn't happen in the S14s. Usually the S13s have cracked dashes. Both the S13s I have had cracked dashes, but got the bride seats in here. The interior's like literally mint. I haven't spent any money on here. Just the shift knob was like 50 bucks. Bride seats I got from my friend. Those were $1,000 with rails, which is like super cheap. Typically those would be like $2 grand or so. So thanks, Will, hooked me up, bro, appreciate you. All right guys, that pretty much goes over my car. There's really not much to it besides a couple exterior modifications. It's relatively like bone stock. The motor's completely bone stock, but just has a body kit and a couple things like that. But definitely have spent a lot of money on like tires and wheels over the last couple of years. So the total amount is actually pretty crazy. And again, it's kind of embarrassing for a bone stock KA because I feel like I could have spent my money elsewhere. But again, I'm happy with this car and that's what matters. But let's go over the list. All right guys, let me pull up my notes here. So I bought this car for about 12 grand. I actually traded my E36 M3 for it, but the guy who was selling this car was asking I think 12K for it, and I had a friend in LA go pick it up for me, and then we met halfway between Oregon and California, and I gave him my M3. But the car was around 12 grand. I'm not exactly sure if he negotiated with the guy, so he may have got it down to like 10.5 or something like that, but I'm guessing the car was around 12 grand just because it's the beginning asking price of the car. So we're gonna start with the exterior, or suspension and wheels. So the Airlift V2 is the old model. That's what I had for this car, and it was 2,600 bucks. The Workmeisters were 3 grand, so the total is 5,600. Then we're gonna go to the exterior, the paint job, 4 grand. Origin kit, 900 bucks. Super Doof rear bumper, 500 bucks. 326 wing, 500 bucks. Ganador, 600. Turn signals and corners were 800 bucks. Taillights, 250. Universal lip, 50 bucks. And then the little Ganador pieces, the little pink piece, my camera focus out there, I think that was like 30 bucks. So we are at, if we'll focus, 7 grand, 630 bucks. And the interior, just a bride seat, shift knob, 1050. And then this is where it gets really expensive. I've bought a lot of wheels for this car over the time. So I had a Blitz 03 pair, Blitz 03 set, Work XC9s, TEs. So I've spent literally 10 grand on wheels on this car, which is like absolutely crazy. But I know there are people out there who spent more money. This car has actually been really reliable besides like just a couple minor things. Obviously like fluid, oil changes, spark plugs. I think the evap purge valve needed to be changed. There's like a slight misfire. Still chasing a very minor misfire and issue with an idle, but changed the knock sensor, both O2 sensors. So about 400 bucks for maintenance. This car's actually been extremely reliable, and that's why I daily this car. And again, it's reliable because I bought it from an old dude and it was bone stock. Probably wasn't, you know, driven very hard. But that is pretty crazy to only spend $400 on this car, you know, over the last few years. Okay, so spent a lot of money on tires. Bought a lot of tires for the Meisters, XD9s, Blitz 03s, bought 6 tires, T37s. So spent $4,400 on tires. So yeah, that's the total amount, guys. I spent $40,865, which is a lot of money to be spending on the 90s car. But again, if you weren't going through so many like tires and wheels, I feel like this car would be a lot cheaper. Like the exterior mods really aren't that crazy. It's just the Airlift and the work wheels that are that much money. But again, a lot of money. But I just want to give you guys a breakdown and show you how much something like this costs. And you know, a lot of the stuff too is a lot more expensive nowadays. Just like the Super Doof, or not the Super Doof, the 326 wing, Ganadors, all that stuff is, you know, more than double the price now, which is like pretty crazy to think about. But hopefully this helps a little bit, guys. There's a big difference between finding a really reliable KA motor that's stock. This car has been a daily for almost 4 years, never had a single problem with it. And then something like this is more of a project car. Not saying this is not a reliable car, but it is a KT. You know, this just has a couple things that need to be attended to. It's got a power steering leak. Also, did switch out the diff. The seals need to be done. So it's just pissing diff fluid everywhere. So big difference between buying a car that is a project and that it needs some money and time into it versus buying something that is pretty good to be able to like street drive and daily. All right guys, so the big question is, would I recommend a 240? And from my personal experience, absolutely. This car has been extremely reliable, and it's literally only cost a few $100s worth of like maintenance over the last few years. So it's been a great car. and it really comes down to where you buy the car from. I would say 90% of my friends who have 240s, they're all on jack stands because they're projects and they're swapped, and there's nothing wrong with that, but a lot of people end up buying projects because they're good deals. And you do save some money buying projects too, because they may have some like nice parts on them already. So it just really comes down to, you know, what your guys' goals are. You know, if you want something that's streetable, that's set up nice, you know, it might be good to buy a stock car or buy one that's, you know, maybe owned by like a 25 or 30-year-old that has some like, you know, basic stuff on it, like coils and wheels. But buying swap cars without having like good knowledge of those types of like motor swaps and not having the knowledge to work on cars may not be the best idea. But if you have some extra money and you want to dive into like buying like a crazy build, I definitely would recommend that too. Some people just need that like step to do something insane, and they just want to buy something crazy and just dive right into everything. There's nothing wrong with that either. So just my personal experience, guys. I know I told you the story of me buying this car from an old person. I would really recommend buying something like this over something that's already swapped and needs a couple things. A car like this. This car is just not dailyable. This has so many aftermarket suspension components. It's just a very rough car to drive in general. This one had like a welded diff. You know, all the suspension components are all swapped. So again, something like this is very comfortable and it's nice to daily. And then this is more of a toy project. So with all that said, guys, I would definitely recommend a 240, but I'm just looking out for you guys. Do your research, and you know, hopefully some information I gave you guys will be helpful, because I want you guys to make good choices. And you know, I don't know if buying a 240 is a good choice, but getting into cars in general is probably not a good choice, because it's a freaking expensive hobby, especially like right now, because these cars aren't cheap. And let me tell you guys something too. You guys were asking me how much I paid for this car. I actually paid a freaking crap ton for this car, and I'm like super sad to even like talk about it, because these cars were cheap back in the day. I bought my black Kouki from an old lady with 90,000 miles, not this one, my old one, for like 7 grand, like 4 or 5 years ago. But you know, these cars are expensive. And a real Kouki is like, you know, 10 grand for an automatic, maybe. Manual, mint, 15 grand to 18 grand. If you're looking for like a clean swapped RB JZ motor, I mean, they're like 20 to 35 grand now, which is like absolutely insane in the United States. But I ended up paying $16,000 for this one, which seems like a lot of money. But the reason why I bought this car is because the prices keep going up on these cars. This has a lot of nice stuff. We'll go over it sometime, but it's got like work wheels, body kit's all real, stuff like that. But the stock 240 I had, I think you guys remember that white one. I paid 10 grand for that, which again, I know it's a lot of money for the market, but it was affordable for the market as well, because you know, the market's just changing so much, guys, it's crazy. Looking at that car for 10 grand, just buying wheels, body kit, painting it, I mean, I'd be in that car for like 18 grand, because the car was like 10 grand. So if I buy a kit, wheels, paint, I'm gonna be in the car another 8 grand. So I ended up buying this car for 16 grand, which I don't really like buying people's projects or cars that are already built, but I feel like it's gonna save me a lot of money in the long term, because I paid 6 grand more for this car that's already done up versus, you know, my stock car that was 10 grand. So that's why I made this choice. And maybe you guys will look at some cars that aren't completely stock either and make or find a good car that, you know, works for you, that has some nice mods, so you can save some money. But I hope this video helps you guys. I just want to give some personal experience owning these cars. My garage is like freaking full of stuff. Got diffs around here and wrap. But hopefully this video helps you guys. And I'll be reviewing some cars. But drop me a comment, guys, and drop me a like. I really would mean a lot. But drop a comment and tell me if there's any cars that you want me to do reviews on, or cars you're interested in. And also, oh yeah, new Toge Dreamer hoodie. This is like a khaki, I think it's called like sandstone, but it's kind of like a brown khaki. These are gonna be releasing this Thursday, 7 p.m. Pacific time. They're all limited edition, and they have the Night Drives logo on the back, Toge Dreamers on the front. There are only 80 of these made, limited edition, never gonna come back in this colorway and this Night Drives design. Sorry, I'm trying to show you guys my back, but yeah. Appreciate the support, guys. Thanks for watching. Peace.